JFK and the Hickey Connection by Mary Grogan. Addressing 60 years of neglect. All 8 great-grandparents of John Fitzgearld Kennedy were Irish. How 2 of these, a son of a Wexford man and a daughter of a Clare man, met and fell in love in an American town, might not surprise anyone here today. The steady flow of emigrants from this country was actually the theme of the final speech of President John F. Kennedy as he left Shannon Airport after his 4-day visit in 1963. The link between Ireland and America is a constantly renewed one. The Irish factor, in turn, is never lost to the creativity of US presidents, and it is a very powerful force in American political life. The emigration route was an option in times of economic stringency, and sometimes the only option, one of life and death. James Hickey, father of Mary Augusta, who married Patrick J. Kennedy, came from the townland of Kilkeiran, a townland which at the time of James's birth in 1835 was the address of 15 households and a population of 69. But that had shrunken to 2 houses and a population of 10 people by 1890. Today, it is rich grazing land for one owner, and, as if making this statement about its history public knowledge, a graveyard, later confined to the burial space of unbaptized children, shares a field with the cattle. A field where once children played, and women sang, and men were revived in their poverty by each other's company. The easy access, at least for a short visit, is the privilege of travellers today. For James Hickey, when he arrived in the New World, he must have been lonely and fearful. A lime-washed cottage would eventually be exchanged for the White House by one of his kin. But there was an almost unending bridge to cross. Biographers tell us that the early immigrants occupied menial positions, and then as their children were educated under a constitution which boasted of equality, they availed of more comfortable positions and enjoyed a better standard of living. Some in the next generation, as in James Hickey's family, aimed at serving in public life and advancing through the ranks to serve in the highest position in the land. James Hickey was born in 1835 to Michael and Catherine Hassett of Kilkeiran. Having emigrated to Boston, he married a Cork woman, Margaret Field, in 1857. Their daughter, Mary Augusta, born in 1857, married Patrick Kennedy, whose son Joseph married Rose Fitzgerald in 1914, the couple giving birth to John in 1917. Fitzgearlds of Bruff and Kennedys of Dunganstown celebrate their prominency in the life of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Today, due to the perseverance, tradition-keeping, and diligence of the Conroy family, especially Philly Delaney and her family, we will hear how the Hickey and the Hassett connection was kept alive even before the advent to fame of Kilkeiran's worthy son. There were 3 daughters and 2 sons in the family of Michael Hickey, according to a survey of the Drummond estate of 1837. His holding was a cabin and 1 acre. The family accounted for 7 of the Kilkeiran population of 69, divided amongst 14 households. Newmarket on Fergus church records differ. Only 4 sons are recorded there. Tom, born in 1830, John in 1833, James in 1835, and Charles in 1839. The fact that the church baptismal records did not start until 1828 or 29 account for this discrepancy. Andrew Pierce, a genealogist, supplies details of the children from American records. The children missing from the church records were Bridget, born in 1817, Patrick, 1819, Michael, 1823, Catherine, 1827, and Anne, 1829. All of Michael's family, including his wife, emigrated to Boston. They are recorded in the passenger list of the Tri Mountain, which arrived 12th June 1851. Michael, their son and brother, was already there, having left for New York on the 1st of June 1847, and then transferring to Boston, where he worked as a coachman. Did he leave Ireland before the others to prepare the way for the rest of the family? There is no record of householder Michael Hickey, who in 1851 would have been aged 61. As the children married, new names were added. Michael married Eliza, Bridget, James Driscoll, Patrick married Mary, Anne married Patrick Halloran. A reflection on the immigration of a whole family, like the Hickeys, smells of disorder in the home country. Nothing could be more true. The Great Famine had wreaked havoc on those at the lower end of the economic scale, like the Hickeys. Emigration was the only option for the Hickey household when there were 2 major upsets to the status quo. The most pronounced upon of the 2 was the Great Famine, but before it ever raised its ugly head in violation of the potato crop, clearances of tillers with cottages on the Drummond estate were the only option for a landlord whose economic survival depended on cattle rather than tillage. The Napoleonic Wars had ensured a market for grain to Great Britain while they lasted, but afterwards tariffs and the Corn Laws prevailed. An agricultural survey of 1849 shows that there were only 3 cows, 1 dry cow, and 1 pig among 9 householders. An acre of tillage would have provided for subsistence rather than economically viable living. What qualities, then, did the new family of emigrants bring to the new world? Were they likely to progress as it was rumoured they would? Or was it possible they would end up in the slums of their chosen city? Antagonism against Irish Catholics was rife in Boston and other American cities. On the second day of his visit here in 1963, JFK spoke of two things which his great-grandfather brought to America:
a strong religious faith and a strong desire for liberty.
Did he omit something? In an 1837 survey of Kilkeiran, held in the National Library, Dublin, 14 households are recorded for Kilkeiran townland. One of the householders is a widow. Two are described as carmen, one a sawyer, the remainder as labourers. A sawyer was a skilled worker whose work in the construction of houses, tools, carts and furniture ensured him a secure living. Likewise, the carman had assurance of employment in the estate itself and expanding to the public roads which since 1800 were developing in this area. The main Limerick-Ennis road passed near the junction of Kilkeiran, Ilcotty and Artsolis townlands, and the coach stopped at the toll house there. It is reasonable to assume a private carman could be hired for helping a gentleman and his entourage on the homeward stretch. By the time James decided to emigrate, the main road was by Bunratty, Newmarket and Latoon, a change made possible by the building of the bridges in Bunratty, 1804, and Latoon, 1785, as well as the securing of the banks of the Shannon and Fergus estuaries. The busyness of these roads would rise again with the opening of the railway in 1859, but the family by then had relocated to Boston. Their fortune was insured over time, but it was paved for them by the relative secure employment as coachman of son Michael, who blazed the trail to Boston 2 years earlier than his siblings and mother. And was it not his father Michael who had shown him the way? In the dark, all cats are grey. Only a common mouse can smell the enterprising one. The proto-capitalist gene for advancing through the ranks was inherited by Mary Augusta. When she met the son of the cooper from Dunganstown, she seized the opportunity, encouraging throughout his political career, laying out his clothes and ensuring he had a bowl of chowder before a meeting in the House of Representatives or the Senate. Shrewd also, in that she named her son Joseph instead of Patrick, to avoid the contempt of those with anti-Irish sentiments. The carman from Kilkeiran, as well as the cooper from Dunganstown, were about to come of age. Acknowledgements. National Library, Dublin. Andrew Pearce, genealogist. JFK Library Archive. Marion O'Leary Fogarty, who inspired the research shown here by her sharing how Joseph Kennedy became involved in bringing the jailing of the Newmarket Brass Band to Congress. Paddy Reynolds for History of Holy Well, James O'Grady, Angela O'Brien and Tommy Mulqueen for the History of Burial Ground. Narration by Conor Madden.